Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much. Regular town council meeting, February 27th here at Town Hall. Sarah, roll call, please.
Thank you. Councilmember Henderson?
Here.
Vice Mayor Zabriskie?
Here.
Mayor Pallavi?
Here.
And Councilmember Romack?
Here.
I'll note Councilmember Klopstad is absent this evening.
Thank you very much. And if everybody would mind rising and joining us in the Pledge of Allegiance, that would be great. Great. Thank you very much. We're going to move into public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address council on items not on tonight's agenda. You can step on up to our podium. I don't know if the podium is angled oddly for any particular reason or if we're changing it, maybe. Should we?
Sorry about that. Yeah, we had a meeting in here earlier.
Okay, no worries.
Didn't get adjusted back.
Didn't know if we were doing that on purpose. Please state your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes per the timer to my left and your right. Yes. It doesn't sound like your mic is on, Louise.
Louise Zabriskie, Friends of the Truckee Library.
Take it away.
Good evening, Mayor Pallavi, Town Council, and staff. I'm here tonight because I would like to thank the Town Council and particularly the staff for their continued support for the new Truckee Library. I have a few updates tonight, and because in the last few months, we've really reached some major milestones on this important community project. So first, as you probably already know, the town and the Nevada County has formed a JPA, Joint Powers Authority, and they will oversee the construction of the library, the financing, and will own it in the end. And also, the Friends have signed an MOU, which ensures that a memorandum of understanding with the JPA that we will continue to be collaborative and partners with the JPA and the new library when it's built. In the last several weeks, we finally have concluded the lot line adjustments so that we have one single owner where the library will be situated in Regional Park. So in the past 2 weeks, Tahoe's Sanitary District, the Rec District, and Tahoe Donner PUD signed unanimously, their boards agreed to the lot line adjustments, and so it is now being sent to the title company, and we have one site. And this took over 18 months, and I want to particularly thank staff members who really helped us move this forward. Finally, we have a design committee that members from the county, the town, and the Friends, and they selected an architectural firm, and the county is now putting together the contract, finishing that up to give to the architecture firm, and we're very hopeful that by the March 26th Board of Supervisors meeting, that they will be approving that contract. So these are huge steps for us. This has been a long time in coming. And so the next step, thanks to the town and the county, but also the incredible community support that we have had, we've been able to raise $500,000. And so we are ready to start the site development, which is huge. So thank you. We're very excited to be where we are now. It's been a road. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Louise. Any other public comment this evening? Seeing none, we will close public comment, and thank you very much. We'll move on to presentations. 5.1, Town Manager Report. Go ahead, Jen.
Great. Good evening. I'm going to ask our Emergency Services Manager, Bob Womack, to come up and talk about the weather that's potentially coming in briefly and just give an update on where we're at with that. It is changing a little bit, and we are watching that pretty closely.
Bob is going to be our resident weather forecaster. Let's see if your forecast is correct or incorrect, Bob.
No
this
way.
This is it.
No way.
This is your chance.
Mayor, council members, good evening. Yes, the National Weather Service earlier today upgraded the winter weather watch to a blizzard warning. They now have that from 10 a.m. Thursday to 10 a.m. Sunday, probably the longest period I've ever seen one And interestingly enough, they have 3 inches of snow predicted for Thursday at Truckee. So everything with a grain of salt. There is definitely some concern out there that the weather is so beautiful right now that in 2 days people just really aren't going to be prepared for what we're going to see. The models have been very consistent. It is coming. It's going to happen. It's just kind of a matter of timing. They're looking at Sunday as a wind down day. Unfortunately for the skiers, they're not so sure that's going to be the end of the day. And for those that follow some of the other forecasters, even they have said the upper lifts won't be open, and let's hope for lower lifts. So it's kind of unfortunate, but we could use the snow. Operations definitely ramping up. Our police department will certainly be staffed up for response and looking towards where they can mitigate issues early on. Public Works, obviously, they have crews on standby and ready to go. And then facilities is certainly, I've talked with Jack and we're talking about what we're going to do in terms of clearing town hall and clearing the trails. We will likely open the EOC at what we call level 3 duty officer status, which just means virtually and paying attention tomorrow as we kind of ramp into the weather and get a little bit closer. We've also been working with the North Tahoe Truckee Homeless Alliance folks and the Emergency Warming Center to make sure that that will be open and available. That decision should come tomorrow, but we'll certainly qualify with the requirements that need to open that. And then also we've been working with PUD to make sure they're staffed up. They've told us what their plans are. They're going to have crews in town, so response time should be cut down at least initially if there are any kind of power outage issues like that. And finally, we've also been talking with American Red Cross. As you know, they do not normally staff winter shelters, and particularly traveler type shelters. So that will always be a difficult situation for us to deal with. But they are ready if there are other eventualities that they need to deal with. So I think that pretty much covers it, if there's any questions.
I'll just add on a little bit here. If there is a blizzard in effect, we will be closing town halls, and we are closed on Friday as well. So at this point, we're anticipating that, given the weather forecast. Town facilities would likely be closed on Thursday. So if you have anything you need to do at Town Hall, come in tomorrow and do that in advance while you're out grocery shopping and getting everything else you might need for a weekend at home. That does not mean we are not working. Our staff will work remotely at home. That's to help facilitate keeping our roads clear for our crews to remove snow and our public safety if they need to respond to any calls. So we want to keep our staff safe and the roads as passable as possible for our crews. And we can have any questions. There is voting that's happening down in Prosser. That the county will keep that open on Thursday and Friday. So the doors will be open and you can access through up to the Prosser room for voting. But there may be other times that would be better for you to come vote and safer. So consider that as alternative options.
Is that your whole report, Jen? We good?
It is. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. And in case anybody forgot, we had like 12 of these storms last year. It's another storm. So thank you very much. And let's not freak out too hard on this one. Just be prepared. Any other, that's it. Any other public comments, questions from council? Go ahead, Jan. Yeah.
Yeah. Bob, can you tell us, is the fire district doing anything in particular in anticipation of the blizzard?
Not that I understand at the moment. They have their normal staffing patterns. Obviously, we work in conjunction and we'll look at some other partners for being able to reach certain areas in town. If we ended up with the extreme ends of the snowstorm, that does create problems getting to the upper ends of Tahoe, or particularly ski slope. So we have some plans in place for that. Those are normal to what we always do. So nothing special there.
Okay.
But they're not going to. They don't need to overstaff any more than they normally do because they're appropriately staffed.
Okay, thank you.
Any other council member questions? Seeing none. Great. Any public comment on the presentation this evening? Seeing none. Closing public comment. Thank you very much, Mr. Womack. Moving on to our consent calendar. Item 6.1, minutes of our council workshop and regular meeting from February 13th. 6.2, update to municipal code section 2.5. 6.3, home weatherization rebate matching with the Truckee Donner Public Utility District. And 6.4, consulting services for operational and service delivery assessment. Any member of council wish to pull anything from consent? Any staff pulling anything from consent?
No, Mayor.
And any member of the public wish to pull anything from consent? Seeing none, we will move on. Councilmember Romack, do I have a motion on our consent calendar?
Motion that we approve the consent items.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, consent passes. And with that, we are on to item 7.1, AB 413, parking near intersections and crosswalks. Blake, welcome to your first, is it your first staff report? Welcome. Thank you. Introduce yourself as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor Paulavi. Yeah, my name is Blake Klossel. I'm an engineering tech with the town. This is my first discussion item, so be kind to me if you will.
As Blake is warming up, I'm realizing I've been calling him Blake Closell for the last year, so I apologize for that.
No worries. So, as you had mentioned, I'm going to be discussing Assembly Bill 413, parking near intersections and crosswalks. This is item number 7.1 today. So this year, the state of California approved Assembly Bill 413, which amends this California Vehicle Code section 22500. This pretty much prohibits parking within 20 feet of the vehicle approach side of any marked or unmarked crosswalk, or within 15 feet of any crosswalk where a curb extension or bulb out is present. Staff identified 27 parking spots total in town that fall within that 15 to 20 foot threshold as described in AB 413. And of those 27, 19 of them are located within the downtown parking district. The way the state the data that they used in order to find this threshold was through NACTO, National Association of City Transportation Officials. This is a well-known design guide that traffic engineers and civil engineers use to, for urban design, bikeway design, etc. So a well-known source here. Now I have a couple images, and it might be a little difficult to see up on the screens, but pretty much I identified locations, but particularly those red squares are where we would be losing parking. In particular, that on this slide, this is downtown. You could see the railroad crossing on Bridge Street and Donner Pass Road. As we all know, there's a lot of parking there, and so we and it's a premium as well. So we'd be losing a couple in this image. This is now farther down Donner Pass Road to the west, and the bottom left is Burger Me. So you can see we're losing a couple spots there as well. This is the balloon track, Church Street extension, Artist Lofts are in the bottom left. Again, we're losing some spots there. This is the West River Streetscape project. And unfortunately, there are a couple of spots we would be losing with this project. If you look at the drawing on the left, or the plan sheet on the left, where that red X is where the sports hub is, Tahoe Sports Hub is, to give you some reference of where this is. And Jack's on the tracks is to the right of the right plan sheet. This is Coldstream. Again, we're losing two here. Unfortunately, our imagery is a little older, so it's not showing all the development out there currently, but you get the idea. This is Gateway, so you have the hospital on the bottom right, and we're losing some spots around here. This is the Pioneer Commerce Center. You have Camp One and Great Gold to the right, and the asphalt plant on the left there. We're losing one here. This is Coburn Crossing. You could see we're also losing one as well. And then finally, this is right out in front of our building. We're losing one spot there as well. So kind of digging a little bit deeper into this NACTO guide, NACTO recommends daylighting, which pretty much means removing of obstructions close to a crosswalk or intersection. You could see in this diagram, with cars parked close to the sidewalk, you lose a line of sight to the pedestrians standing on the curb. With the vehicles removed in the right image, you could see clearly there's a wider line of sight. NACTO does, though, however, reference that to the state that this shouldn't be a blanket requirement, that each jurisdiction can use engineering analysis in order to tailor it to the local needs. Finally, our recommended action, staff's recommended action is to direct staff to prepare a local ordinance establishing allowable proximity of parking spaces to crosswalks. And with that is my presentation. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much. Yeah. Got a golf clap from Councilmember Romack, so you're in. Do you have any questions for Blake?
I do not. No, great job.
How about on this side, Vice Mayor Zabriskie?
Yeah, Blake, do you happen to know if, with the plans for Bridge Street for the signals on the north side and south side of the railroad tracks, on Donner Pass Road and then on West River Street, with the installation, with the development of that, will that force a reduction in parking spaces on any of the corners? And I'm particularly thinking of this, of River Street, West River Street.
I'm going to actually defer to Dan, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I'm not as familiarized with that project.
Right. Yeah, I'm sorry for not bringing it up sooner.
No, that's okay.
It probably will not, but there's possibility, because we've got to figure out where signal poles would go and those kinds of things. It could chew into a couple of parking spaces. So, and then on Bridge Street, there's, with that signal project, on the Bar of America side
Of
the street, when that area was designed, it was designed with angle parking, but the curb lines were set up so that could be converted to parallel parking when the signal goes in, if it's needed, so that you could have a two approach lanes at that intersection in the southbound direction instead of the current single one. So that decision still needs to be made as a part of the signal design and the geometric design there. So that would be the spot where I would see the highest likelihood of a reduction in parking occurring.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Henderson.
I have just one question. Assuming we move forward with an ordinance tonight, what's the time frame for just doing outreach to businesses who might see those spots disappear and then actually removing those spots?
So we haven't really thought that far yet. We've kind of really been held up on town council's direction. Again, Dan, if you would like to add anything, I'm happy.
Sure. So if we just went with the new state legislation, we'd be taking out the 20 spots or so. The consistent input we've heard from downtown businesses over the years is a desire to preserve parking wherever possible. We think that most of those downtown locations, we probably can preserve that parking because we've got the benefit of bulb outs. So the exhibit, Blake showed with the car approaching the intersection, or the crosswalk happens to be one that doesn't have the bulb outs. So what we're expecting when we get the engineering analysis done is that we would come to a conclusion that any place we've got a bulb out, we can take that 15-foot distance and probably reduce it to a 10 or a 7.5-foot distance, which would then allow those parking spaces to be maintained. I think if that's where we end up with it, the level of outreach we would do is probably going to be significantly less than if we end up in a spot where we're taking most of those spaces out.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Blake, can you go ahead to that slide, one or two more slides forward? The one that has the crosswalk and the people, basically. I guess my real question on that one is, I don't even feel like that's a realistic slide, right? Like, are there really I mean, those cars are almost in the crosswalk, for example, from a line of sight perspective. So I'm just wondering, like, where is this measurement supposed to come? Where's like their measurement coming from? Is it like a center line of the crosswalk? Is it a far line? Like, where are we measuring from?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's hard to find, cold hard facts from NACTO. It was very much so a blanket statement. They even mentioned 20 to 25 feet. So, the only thing I could think of is they've done some sort of study, maybe in a major city like a San Francisco, where it's more prominent to have people closer to crosswalk or cars closer to crosswalks, and they've identified that this clear zone, roughly 20 to 25 feet, is appropriate. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, because it doesn't really have there wasn't a lot of detail as I was reading into it, so I was just wondering where that measurement even started or finished, and why that graphic is included, because we don't have parking spaces that overlap our crosswalks, which is sort of what that graphic is illustrating a little bit. So cool. I think a local application of this is due. If no other questions, we'll open it up to public comment. Any member of the public have a comment on this agenda item? If so, come on up. Seeing none, closing public comment, bringing it back to council for deliberation. We're not looking for a motion here. We're just looking for some staff direction to move this forward at a local level. So if anybody has any comments, go ahead.
I would just say I appreciated all the maps in the staff report and that you just shared with us, so we got an idea of where we were talking about, and I support staff moving forward with their recommendation.
Great. Vice Mayor Zabriskie?
I agree with Council Member Romack, and my one thought is part of this seems to be directed at protecting against dart outs, children that jump out and you don't see them till after you've hit them. So I'm hoping that staff is focusing on analyzing this in terms of, are the parked vehicles blocking line of sight to pedestrians, which is, I'm sure, what it's all about in the first place, but I'm just re-emphasizing that, and realize there may be circumstances particular to Truckee that's going to affect what you come back and recommend to us, which you're also aware of. So thank you.
Anything to add, Councilmember Henderson?
No, I think it's been captured, but just want to say also really appreciated the graphics. It's sometimes policies can get wonky, right? And seeing the tangible impacts was really great. Thank you. So good job on your first one.
Yeah, I think
Thank you.
Just adding to what Vice Mayor Zabriskie said, I don't think it's just about the businesses. I agree. Safety is definitely an issue, and we should be making sure that, we take all of that into account. So I fully support that as well. With that, Vice Mayor, do we need there's no motion, actually. Do we need a motion? Do you want a motion?
No.
Do we need a
We're
motion
okay.
to add this to
Yeah.
the work plan? We'll do that later, 7.4.
We can do that later or come back with the next quarterly where it fitted.
Oh, got it. Okay. It'll be in there. Excellent. Cool. Good job. Thank you. You have your direction. We will see you in 3 to 6 months, I'm assuming. Excellent. Moving on to 7.2. Alfred, come on up. We are purchasing 6 zero-emission battery electric vans for the transit fleet and receiving an update on our electrical vehicle charging infrastructure. Mr. Alfred Knotts. And others, and team.
I think this is Danielle's first as well.
Welcome. Hi, Danielle.
Good evening, Your Honor, members of the Town Council. Don't laugh. We do have another inaugural first-timer presentation here, so Danielle will join me up here. Sorry. Beginning. Good to go? Good to go. Okay. Thank you. Yes, and I do want to introduce Danielle Lapointe. She is our administrative technician here with the Transit Department. It helps with a variety of different aspects of our program, not necessarily just transit, but very instrumental in the procurement of some of the grants that will be purchasing these vehicles also, but also the bike share program, Tart Connect. She does a lot of work behind the scenes and keeps my head straight. So that's why she's up here too. So with that, I'll keep this brief here, but I do want to remind everybody, we did submit a grant for this program here, which we were very lucky to receive. There is indications that the state is going through some financial hardships right now and looking at some of these programs. So we were lucky that we got our allocation in and have these dollars allocated to this project. And this was awarded through the Transit Intercity Rail Capital Program, the TIRCIP program is what we refer to it as. And we did brand this as a Keep Truckee Moving program is what we branded it as. And that really is comprehensive of the overall transit system, but also the assets, even the technology. We're looking and have purchased some of the ride booking technologies too. So it's been very well received at the state level that we have this programmatic approach to transit. We're not just one-offing these things and buying a vehicle here, buying a vehicle there, putting it in a bus stop here. That we're showing the whole comprehensive system, which is also very well resonated with the community, I believe, as well. So some of the objectives of that is really transitioning our fleet to the zero emissions aspect of our fleet, providing charging infrastructure for that fleet, and providing assets in terms of the rail yard mobility hub, but also looking at expansion of the transit maintenance facility up at the Public Service Center, also up at Stevens Lane. So tonight we are just focused on the vehicles themselves in that purchase, but did want you to be aware of how the heck do you plan on charging these things. So the background and objectives of our transition supports of, we're not subjected to a lot of the state mandates right now based on the size of our vehicles as well as our size of our community as well and our just overall transit system. But there's a lot of policy and guidance within our general plan, but also just within the overall state objectives in terms of GHG reduction. And again, going back to our goals and policies within our climate action plan and our mobility element. So we, again, have been successful in procuring vehicles through this grant program. So we are here tonight to take that first endeavor. The award is approximately about $1.6 million for the purchase of vehicles, but tonight we have an allocation of about $700,000 that we've gotten from the Transportation Commission. And then we'll be using the state contract also that's available to us through a association that we belong to, the California Association of Coordinated Transit, which allows us to purchase off a state contract, which gives us some continuity within our fleet, also across the state, and allows us to streamline the procurement process. So that's the contract we will be piggybacking off of is the term. What are we purchasing? So tonight we will be asking for approval to purchase Ford E-Transit battery electric vans. Those really are kind of the industry standard right now. They are ADA accessible with wheelchair lifts and tie downs, so that's the securing mechanism. That does allow us also to flip those seats back down and also maybe remove seats. So we do have a capacity of 8 sitting passengers collectively within the whole vehicle. The kilowatts, that's the battery power there, does allow us approximately about 100-mile range. That is less than our fossil fuel vehicles, so that is kind of a trade-off here that we're seeing, and that's why we are looking at expansion vehicles here. These aren't necessarily replacement. The industry standard is a replacement of about 2 to 1. Even with the big vehicles, when we were buying those in Park City, we were buying 2 $1 million vehicles a piece to replace one of those vehicles. So that's, as technology comes along, we will have the ability to increase that range, hopefully, with batteries as they come online. They are only available in 2-wheel drive. I know that has been a question, and it's been a question that we've struggled with internally as well. The majority of the time we can operate with 2-wheel vehicles with chains and with the appropriate tires as well. It does come with our camera systems also. Bike racks and graphics and wraps will be included in this purchase also. So it's a rather turnkey purchase, again, off of that state contract. Benefits of electric vans, I won't go through too much of this, but lower maintenance costs over the whole life of the vehicles. Now that is realized over an extended period of time. A lot less fluids and things like that to be changed in mechanical parts. Assists us with the compliance and regulations and guidance by the state. Supported by our PUD also. less noise pollution in addition to the air quality benefits. And one thing I did want to point out is we do have vehicles of this size right now, about the 930 and 931 of the vehicles, the numbers. I don't expect you to know those numbers, but they are the smaller vans that drive around. And what a lot of benefit has that been is that we don't need CDLs for those in hiring right now. And I'm sure everybody knows, I know Councilmember Romack is aware of Placer County, same struggle, is finding drivers with CDLs. So we have people, literally drivers, that are fighting over to drive vehicles that don't require the CDL. So it does bring down that labor barrier as well. How will they be utilized? They'll be utilized within the system immediately. They do help in incremental diversification of the fleet. I would caution against the town and us all just kind of going head steam into one technology right now. So this does give us a little bit of a lower risk. These vehicle lives are about 4 to 5 years also, and depending on the mileage. So we will be able to turn these over, learn from those. The mechanics will be able to learn from those also, and be able to get our fueling online also. They will be used within our dial-a-ride system currently as it exists, kind of regardless of the Target Connect future also. So they do have utility within our existing system. One thing I wanted to point out too is there's always been talk, and I know that the Truckee trolley did exist in the past, and there's been discussions about, does a downtown circulator come back, especially with the parking management plan and other aspects of downtown parking district management. These vehicles could potentially be available to use that, for that also, and that is a recommendation within our short-range transit plan that currently exists also. Emergency evacuation, it gives us additional capacity right now. We've talked about that when we meet with Bob Womack and everything too about, can we move a lot of people? Well, we have these small vehicles, so we can't move a ton, but we do want to move the people that are transit dependent, that don't have access to a vehicle, and that provide additional capacity there also. How will they be charged in the near term? So we will look at providing, or there is a project in the works of the second phase of the mobility hub that will install electric charging stations over there. And we also will look at upgrades at Riverview. So that's probably something that has been new that's come about. We have these discussions internally about this facility is available to us right now. If we do level 2 charges over there, there's not a ton of infrastructure required for those, and there is existing energy or electrical capacity at that facility. So this technology or infrastructure can be relocated very easily also. So in the potential future, it could be, or not potential future, in the future it would be relocated to the Public Service Center over on Stevens Lane also. So that is kind of our long-term strategy. These are incremental steps here, how to fuel the vehicles in the near term, but then looking at the Public Service Center in the long term as our primary location for both storage, maintenance, as well as charging. And was there anything you wanted to add? Sorry, I didn't want to just throw her straight to the wolves here tonight either. So I didn't want to do like they did to Blake, but. But that is the recommendation tonight.
Councilmember Romack was getting ready to attack. I don't know. Look out. Thank you. Are you good? Are you done?
Yes.
Yeah. All
Yes.
right.
That was
Cool.
the conclusion. Thank you.
Any council member questions on that? Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you. I have just 2. So I know they don't come in 4-wheel drive yet. How many days in a given year would you say that we can't actually operate 2-wheel drive vans? And you said it's probably not that many. Did I hear that right?
Yes, it's very few. At that point, it's not even the 2-wheel versus 4-wheel drive. It's at the point where they can't even really provide the service in a timely manner that we suspend the service altogether. So when it's that bad, the 2-wheel versus 4-wheel is kind of a moot point.
Okay, good to know. And then I know you mentioned the off-peak or off-demand charging. I think the PUD engaged in a time of use rate study. Do we know the status of that at all? Just because if they move in that direction, that would shift costs to charge at different times of the day. We don't have any insight in it?
No, we don't. But and I did put that in there kind of thinking that may not be the framework right now, but historically.
In future.
Yes, and that
Okay.
was a benefit, when we did this kind of system and upgrades in Park Cities. Rocky Mountain Power had off-peak hours, and it was very, very cost-effective to have those sitting overnight and then have them ready, and then we can top them off with the level 3 chargers throughout the day.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Zabriskie, any questions?
On the 100-mile range, does that limit the use of the vans at all for daily service?
It does, and we've strategically not strategically but we've identified locations within the time points and the end of route services at the mobility hub that all routes do come through there. So when they do the overnight charging, that throughout the day they can use the level 3 chargers and kind of maintain that 80 to 90% capacity. So the 100-mile isn't necessarily just that's all you have for the day. They will be able to charge throughout the day also, but that is something that the drivers will have to be aware of, and kind of that term of the range anxiety, and how we best both provide the infrastructure but also the training to the drivers so that they're aware of things like using the heaters and things like that draw down the batteries also. So that 100-mile will still give them the range that they need.
Okay. And then Danielle, did you have anything to add? Did Pete miss?
No.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just add, Alfred touched on this, but Danielle was actually the staff lead on the $4.4 million grant that we received. So well done, Danielle.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
yes,
just
for nothing else, you should get that credit.
yeah, no, those guys did a great job on it. But I think to the point you may have been getting at, Councilmember Zabriskie, we're currently expecting that the 6 vans that we're probably going to be able to have 3 or 4 on the road at any given time. So like, if you think about it, in the morning, everything can be charged up. If all 6 vehicles are out running and they all kind of draw down at the same time, that's not going to work well. So we're not exactly sure how it's going to piece together, but what we're anticipating is it will probably end up with 3 or 4 vehicles on the road at any given time, and then you'd be swapping out vehicles and recharging. Getting a fully charged vehicle, dropping a vehicle that's the charge has been depleted on, and then getting it charged up. And there's going to be a bit of a rotation that we're going to be learning about as we go to find out exactly how many vehicles we can keep on the road at a time with the current state of the EV technology.
Just a question. Thank you for that presentation. You mentioned that the wrapping of the vans is included. Are they going to be wrapped like the light blue TART van, like our buses, or you don't know what they'll be wrapped as? That'll just be included when we decide how we're going to use them, or?
No, we will give them our graphic and our branding and everything that will look similar, not necessarily to the TART Connect vehicles, but it will be branded within the overall TART system. So similar to what Jamie's system is at Placer County, and then our system too. So that will be the schematic that we will provide them.
Great. And Danielle, what are the other grants that you're going to apply for next so we can get 4 points? I'm just kidding. But we really appreciate all the effort on that.
My only quick question is just the interplay on the charging infrastructure. So can you just maybe review, and I guess one clarifying question is, so the mobility hub will not be used for long-term overnight charging? That is a different purpose in phase 2, and what's the timing on that? So maybe that's the first question, is just clarify the electric vehicle charging infrastructure that's slated for the mobility hub, and when we anticipate that moving forward.
So the electric infrastructure for the mobility hub will be level 3 charging, so that people can charge throughout the day, both the general public and our fleet. And that is due to be constructed this summer.
Got it.
Yes.
But it's not, we won't have dedicated stations for our fleet at this thing we're calling the mobility hub.
Right. So the idea, the current concept is to have rapid chargers at the mobility hub that vehicles could use during the day. That's that whole thing I was talking about a minute ago, where that would be the spot where a driver would drop off a vehicle that's basically used up its battery life and pick up one that's fully charged, plug that vehicle in so it can charge up, plug the discharge vehicle in, so that rotation would be happening through the mobility hub. The reason we'd like to not have the mobility hub be the spot for overnight charging is it's kind of outside in a central location. If we can have the overnight charging happening in a covered building that's more secure, there's some advantages to that. So there's kind of this like during the day charging thing that we're thinking about, and then the overnight charging that we're thinking about.
Okay, and we're obviously a bit of ways off on phase 2 of the new Corp Yard extension, which is our long-term goal here. So I asked the question sort of in the question and answer, and I guess I wasn't totally satisfied with that answer. We just heard Ms. Zabriskie in public comment talking about the library being ready to go. We have to relocate a library. We have to relocate Park and Rec. We've been kind of like moving all these things around, and now it seems like we're going back to infrastructure at the old Corp Yard. So it seems like we're sort of going slightly backwards in terms of what our plans were. I did hear clearly that the infrastructure is going to be movable. I'm just wondering if you're confident that all of this timing and moving and shaking is going to work itself out and is an efficient way to do all this.
So I think there is going to be a pressure. So assuming that the construction funding for the library comes together, if that comes together in the next couple of years, I think that will create a pressure point on the Riverview Corp Yard, where then it's going to become a timing issue on when does the rec district need to move into the Riverview Corp Yard in order for the library to be built. Some of that's going to be based on where the library gets sited. If the library gets sited smack dab on top of the existing maintenance facility for the rec district, they're going to need to move before construction on the library can start. If the library gets sited not smack dab on the maintenance facility, but near it, that would potentially create an opportunity for the library to get built, for the rec district to continue to operate out of their maintenance facility while we get our longer term plans further along. So I think these are good things to be thinking about. And I think how it plays out is going to depend on this interplay of the library location. And then we could find a situation where we do need to leave vehicles parked at the mobility hub overnight for potentially a few years, right? If the timing isn't working out. But the thinking right now is, we've got an existing building, we've got good electric service there that's not utilized because it's not heavily utilized because we don't have our main maintenance activities there. So it would be a pretty, by comparison, inexpensive location to set up for EV charging. We're also thinking, we could take some of that infrastructure with us to a new facility. I think what's more likely is it would stay there, and then it would potentially be of benefit to the rec district, where they would have some EV charging infrastructure at that location when they move in. So.
And our CIP plans for phase 2 of the new public works complex are still on track. I mean, we're going to move that forward through the budget process. That's still within a 5-year horizon.
Yeah, ultimately that's the decision of the council, obviously, but that's what we're currently programming into the draft budget documents.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Thank you. Any further questions from council at this time? Great. We'll open it up to public comment. Any member of the public have any comments on this agenda item? Seeing none, closing public comment. Bringing it back for council deliberation, we are looking for an action simply on the purchase of the vehicles this evening. So go ahead, Councilmember Romack.
I was just going to say I'm ready to make a motion on staff's recommendation to authorize the purchase of 6 electric Ford e-Transit vans through the California Association of Coordinated Transit Morongo Basin Transit Authority Vehicle Purchasing Cooperative under agreement number 20-01 in the amount of $692,130.02.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. Buy some new vans. Woo.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 7.3, Truckee Trails Tax Measure Ordinance 2024-03. Jen Calloway is listed on my agenda. Yeah, okay.
Yes, good evening. I'm
Yes.
going to pull this up really quickly. I have a very robust presentation for you. one slide. This is, if you remember, about a year and a half ago, we passed a sales tax renewing the sales tax and then extending that by another 0.25%. So we are getting ready to submit everything to the state to process that tax measure, and this is the first part of doing that. So we don't really have any more of a presentation. We're just asking you to open up and introduce this for the first reading.
So opened. Any questions? No questions. Any public comment on this agenda item? No public comment. Closing public comments. And where are we here? We do need to introduce the ordinance. So bring it back to Councilmember Henderson. Take it away.
Yep. I would love to introduce ordinance 2024-03, imposing a transaction and use tax to be administered by the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration.
I'll second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. Go forth. I'm guessing you're up again for 7.4, Jen. The quarterly strategic work plan update. It is 5:49 p.m. and we have made it through 4 discussion items in all presentations, just for the record.
This could be a new record.
It might be.
Okay, so this is your quarterly strategic focus area work plan update through December 31st. So some of these you might kind of wonder, as there's been a little bit of an overlap in timing, but just as a reminder, you have 5 strategic focus areas and a number of goals under each focus area. Those task items that have been completed during this quarter, for infrastructure, our partnership with Nevada County, that's what Ms. Zabriskie spoke about earlier today in the formation of the JPA and signing those agreements. Under Goal 3 of supporting connectivity, we had the Church Street extension, Trout Creek Roundabout completion, as well as Pioneer Trail and Bridge Street extension. As a reminder, Council chose to shelf that for the moment, given the information we got back on the traffic analysis. So we're considering that complete. Goal number 4, regional collaboration and maintaining regional community partnerships, actively participating in regional information technology on best practices in cybersecurity. While we continue to do that, we've made a lot of advances in that area and consider that complete and ongoing. For housing, we have increased staff's capacity. Next week, you will be introduced to our 2 full-time senior planners that have joined our department. We have one that started last week, and Adam will be joining us tomorrow. So we're excited to introduce you to both of them. Our new housing programs, we've developed new programs to increase production of workforce housing, and that was the revised ADU program that Council heard in late 2023. Support housing solutions for the unhoused. The Emergency Warming Center is up and operational through the end of February, and we will work with them into March should there be weather demand, if they're capable of doing continued operations. For environmental sustainability, you've approved the single-use bottle ordinance development. We are in compliance with 1383 recovered organic waste procurement requirements and have supported Visit Truckee Tahoe destination stewardship planning process. And then lastly, for communications and public outreach, we've completed work on upgrading parcel mapping information, completed the Fall Night Sky Awareness Campaign, and are getting ready to launch a Spring Awareness Campaign. Building photo stock, we've done a lot of work in this area. That's another one that's ongoing but complete. We've made great progress in that. And then many of you participated in the Donner Lake art install ribbon cutting in about October. Work that's substantially complete or in progress this we measure by about 50% or greater. Jaboom Street sidewalk feasibility study, the local funding mechanisms for transit operations expansion, and our parcel inventory for the River Revitalization Steering Committee efforts. Our disaster preparedness and evacuation, We are very close with our high-frequency communications radios, our redo of our emergency operations plan, which you just approved at the last meeting, develop updated emergency operations center format and position matrix. We're moving that forward now with the EOP adoption. And then our functional wildfire exercise is being planned for spring of 2024. In the form of housing, we have moved forward with housing on town-owned land. As a reminder, that's the high-altitude fitness site. That 60-day period is coming to an end soon, so we'll be back in front of you in the next few meetings regarding that project. Pre-approved modular accessory ADUs, and are working towards completing that, as well as evaluating our current deed restriction housing monitoring program with our consultants. Again, our single-use foodware ordinance implementation, we are well on the way in that process, collaborating on sustainable purchasing practices, access to our renewable diesel, that is complete as of this point, but as of December 31st was being finalized, and ongoing funding for environmental sustainability. You just approved that at your last meeting as well. We are exploring building reach codes. We've had some additional conversations about the timing for that and how to move forward. So we'll be bringing something back to council in the near future as a discussion item as we think about how that aligns with the next building code update. Housing retrofit incentives, program revision and expansion, and in 2 meetings you'll be hearing the biomass feasibility study outcome and recommendations. For communications, our website is about ready to launch. We'll be presenting that to the council in March. So that's nearing completion, as well as our town branding and branding guidelines. And as I mentioned, our spring night sky awareness campaign scheduled to launch at the beginning of April. Exciting new program led by our IT team in partnership with our local partnering agencies for a tech teams program, and a lot of interest in that. And then upgrading our wireless access points for enhanced connectivity. We're pretty close to finishing that up. We have a few new items that have been added to the work plan, and this is a bit repetitive as we went over this with you at the retreat in February. Trout Creek Restoration, Reach 1 Segment A, as well as the Downtown Railroad pedestrian crossing. We received some grant funding for that project, so we're advancing that in the work plan in order to assess the feasibility of additional pedestrian crossing in the downtown. We are now partnering with the Chamber on what we're calling quarterly Talk with the Town events. We hosted one in January on business safety. We have another one scheduled for, I believe, the end of April. The Chamber is surveying members to see what topics they would be interested in. Right now, it looks like we will be connecting on unhoused issues. And then Goal 7, Public Art Funding Strategy. That was a direction of the council in a previous discussion, so we'll be advancing that one as well. We have to delay our updated Trails and Bikeway Master Plan. It's still staying in the bike rack, but it's not going to meet the timeline we originally planned due to some of the other priorities. And then recommending that we delete the destination stewardship certification support, as VTT is no longer pursuing that. For the bike rack, we have 2 adds: the sale of ADUs, accessory dwelling units policy consideration. That is something that is now allowed by the state, and we can consider that as a local agency, as well as developing a similar STR token program for incentivizing building decarbonization. That was previously discussed in September at your update. So we've added that into the bike rack. And that is all of our updates. With that, we are happy to answer questions. There's a lot of staff in the room that can give more detail on anything that you would like. Or of course I can help too.
Thank you very much. And there were some great questions asked of staff ahead of time and all of our question and answers. So thanks to all the council members for paying close attention and getting a lot of those questions out. For members of the public, you can view those online via the public comment platform as well if you're looking to see what questions were asked ahead of the meeting. With that, Councilmember Romack, do you have any questions on this agenda
My
item?
questions were answered in advance, so
Great.
appreciate that.
Thank you. Councilmember Henderson?
I just have one. I apologize. I didn't send this one in advance. I'm just catching it now. I'm looking at the bike rack items, and I wanted to just check in. I know in the past we've floated the idea of talking about a youth council as part of our youth engagement and all of our DEI work. And I don't, maybe it never has made it onto the bike rack. If someone could just tell me where that might live, or maybe it just doesn't live anywhere yet. And that's a fine answer as well.
I think Jen is pulling up where that may be in the work plan or taking a look for that, but that is something that our DEI program manager, Erica, is currently working on. She's working with TTUSD staff, presented at a high school leadership class a couple of weeks ago to get some feedback on that idea. So it is something that is in progress. We are hoping to have sort of a framework developed in the next few months with the hope of having that sort of launch at the beginning of next school year. That's the hope we're working towards. Although working with partners, the timeline is not always in our control.
That's great. Thank you for the clarification. I appreciate it.
It is task item 4.3 in the communications.
Thank you.
Yep.
In the work plan.
We have a lot of items in that work plan.
Can't even find them all. Vice Mayor Zabriskie, go ahead.
Right, I have 6 kind of specific questions, just informational, and I don't know if you'll be able to answer them or not. On the short-term workforce housing token program, I believe there have been 2 applicants and 3 ADUs. I want to make sure I understand. In this situation, the ADUs already have to be rented long-term. They can't be short-term rentals. So the only additional benefit we're getting by providing the STR tokens is a workforce family under a certain income.
Is this a programmatic question or is it a work plan related question?
It's informational on that task item. I'm trying to make sure I understand what the incremental benefit is we get for the STR.
Yeah, the incremental benefit is a new ADU cannot be short-term rented. However, it's not required to be workforce housing. It could be somebody's vacation unit for friends who are coming up to visit or any number of other things. So by deed restricting that as a workforce unit, it requires it's used as workforce housing. And then in exchange, the recipient can short-term rent a different property, but not the ADU itself.
You just provided the point I needed to hear. And then on the greenhouse gas emission reinventory, we decided to remove that from the work plan based on our determination to complete the municipal GHG dashboard first. Do we know when we expect the dashboard to be completed?
The dashboard is completed, so that's our N0 dashboard, and we are currently starting to work on the municipal GHG inventory that should be completed by this summer.
Okay. And then on the comprehensive housing retrofit pilot project, that was task 6.5, is this project now being coordinated with the SBC's program to try and install the heat pumps in 20 homes? You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, it is to some degree. It's coordinated with that program. That program is really focused more on helping homeowners navigate how to retrofit homes and how to find sort of the right professionals to do so, and work on professional development for some of those professionals. This is also coordinated with our building decarbonization roadmap that we're currently working on.
Okay, thank you. Those are all my questions.
Great. With that, I don't have any questions. Thank you. We'll open it up to public comment on the work plan. Any public comment? Seeing none, we will close public comment and bring it back to council for any deliberation. Really, I guess, speak up if you're looking to make any edits.
I'm not looking to make any edits. Can I make a comment or two?
Of course. Yeah.
I know we've reiterated this every time, but really appreciate this work plan and the effort that staff has put in on this work plan, and how now I'm starting to get it every time. So when it comes to us and helping to find the things and you know, the different levels of completion, and I think that's really great for us and for the community, more so that it's easy to read and understand, to see what we're doing. While also remembering there's so much of what we do that's not part of this work plan. And again, just highlighting Chief, your team, day to day out there, Dan, the Public Works team, who are going to be hard at work in a few days, plowing our roads. So again, you know, we talk about this a lot and it's amazing. And yet there's also this incredible amounts of work that are going on outside of this work plan as well. So just wanted to acknowledge that too, but really find this tool useful and appreciate all the effort that's gone into this.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Councilmember Henderson.
I'll just echo that. Very well said.
I as well echo that. I was struck by how much the town staff has accomplished, which I just haven't paid attention to. And having this quarterly update really, I think, helps the council a lot in some ways in staying out of the way, I guess. Anyway, keep up the good work. I'm sure we won't stay out of the way.
And I just had, I echo everything that's been said, absolutely. And I was actually just a bit remiss. Where did we end up on the local legislative platform concept? Did we decide not to add that to the bike rack?
No, you did give direction to add that to the bike rack. I was considering this as kind of the conclusion of that conversation, so it'll come back in the bike rack at your next quarterly update.
Okay, yep. So it will be there. I remember talking about that because we just got a request to provide some input on something just of that sort. So the timing was good. Great. Well, it sounds like we are accepting our quarterly update. So thank you. That is all the action I believe you needed this evening. With that, it is 6:04 p.m. Somewhat shocking. Council member reports. Councilmember Henderson, take it away.
I have nothing to report. I took off after our last meeting for
Nice
family
job.
vacation. So thank you to my fellow council members for all their work in my absence.
Excellent work. Vice Mayor Zabriskie.
I attended the mayor-manager meeting in your place at Grass Valley, then the CAP mixer which was a contractor training for building decarbonization. That's where the 20 homes came up for SBC work. I guess it's a $500,000 anonymous grant that's funding this effort. It's a pilot project. Good Morning Truckee included a presentation by the Reno Airport Chief Operating Officer, who essentially just focused on growth. It's everything that the Reno International Airport is going to be doing over the next 5 to 6 years in the way of construction and expansion. And in contrast to that presentation, we had Rob Etnier talk about our local airport and how different it really is, how it really has different clientele, different missions. It's very significant. It's the only airport in the United States that sells recycled biodiesel fuel for the jets. It's a mixture, but it's the only one that sells fuel that's completely includes biodiesel. And then attended the CTA strategy meeting, the strategy review. That's the Climate Transformation Alliance, looking over its mission and visions and strategy for the upcoming years. Attended the Homeless Advisory Committee meeting, where the committee's looking at a really holistic approach to how we address the homeless, both in terms of the services provided by various agencies, the kinds of the shelters that needed to be provided. It's about trying to categorize and quantify the needs of the various unhoused people that are living here in Truckee and or coming through. So it's a much more ambitious effort from which we can then get a better sense of what type of shelters and services we need to provide in order to reach what you might call a net zero homeless population. which would mean what comes in equals what goes out in terms of homelessness and then overcoming homelessness. And then finally, the LAFCO, the Local Agency Formation Committee, approved a fire suppression water system in the San Juan Ridge area. I point that out because it's in an extremely high fire severity hazard zone. It's 142 parcels on 10 acres of land. On the one hand, the fire suppression water system will make it easier to suppress fires. On the other hand, it also attracts development in a WUI area. So there's a real contradiction there. And while we approved it, I'm hoping that's something we're going to look at more closely in terms of mitigating the benefits we provide for fire suppression, so we aren't just creating a bigger monster.
Really interesting. Yeah. Councilmember Rumack.
Thank you. Unfortunately, today I missed the communications subcommittee for the R2SC meeting due to a work commitment running long, but it sounds like it was a productive meeting and developing a communication strategy and opportunity points to start engaging more with the public. So the ideas that were discussed today are going to come to the R2SC next week. So the full committee will get to hear those. But just so the community is aware, I know we're working on developing more outreach and engagement on the river revitalization. So excited for that. Also, I utilized the Rail Yard Transit Mobility Hub this weekend to take the bus to go skiing. So I encourage everybody again to hop on the bus when you can. And it was fun to check out the Mobility Hub. Looking forward to seeing chargers there in the future. And that was really about it.
Great, thank you. I attended the CCC meeting. Jen presented alongside the Deputy CEO from Placer County and Allison Lehman from Nevada County. Little state of the local government update, along with the two ski areas, North Star and Palisades, on their parking management plans. Quite interesting. We had a Visit Truckee Tahoe board meeting. Was very productive. We are moving over to the lift and discussed a number of items, but primarily just updates on branding and some other stuff, working on some staff reorganizations and things like that. So a little bit short on capacity at the moment. I did my filming of whatever video. What do we call those videos?
The why.
What is it?
The why.
The why, yes, our why of running. So Councilmember Henderson, I don't know if you've had a chance to do that yet.
Tomorrow morning.
Good. So then we'll all be done and can cross that off our list. So awesome. Good job. Really most interesting of my last couple weeks, we met with Congressman Kiley out at West End Beach with the Tahoe Backcountry Alliance and Outdoor Alliance California and the Land Trust and the Sierra Nevada Alliance and Sierra Business Council. I know I'm missing a couple of others. I was there.
Forest Service.
Forest Service, of course. Thank you. On some park and rec property, giving Congressman Kiley a tour of some of the outdoor recreation, both assets, challenges, and just stories of how things are going in terms of how we access our public lands in and around our community. It was incredibly productive. I know he met with the Chamber Legislative Committee right before us, so had a good day in Truckee, getting an update on a lot of things, both business-oriented, public lands-oriented, and looking at how he can continue to pursue solutions and funding for some of our priorities as we move a lot of that forward. And then did a media appearance today for one of the San Francisco Bay Area news stations on this incoming epic storm and how we prepare. So that was also good, making sure everybody is on board. With that, we are ready to adjourn to close session coming up next, and then our next town council meeting on March 12th.